So this morning we've got the privilege of spending some time with the Plaque Rock Female. There was reports of a pair of leopards, so that means a male and a female, that were moving into this area. Whether she was the female that was seen, we're not too sure. There's a very brief view of them that went into a pretty thick area, and as we were driving around looking for that pair, we found her. And so what we're hoping for now is by sitting with her, we then are going to either hear the other leopards mating, and she might then walk straight across there, or she'll then meet up with the male again if it was her earlier on. Seems as though she's also on a territorial patrol, stopping and scent marking all over the show. She did have a cub about a month and a half ago, and we had a very brief view of it, not enough to put a story out on her, and also being a first-time mother, we weren't too sure how successful she was going to be. So what we're wanting to do now is try and see if she's got any suckle marks on her belly. That'll then tell us that her cub is still alive, and we can then just work even harder to try and find where she's moved this cub to, or where the new den is. So based on the view that we had of her belly, we can see the teats, but it doesn't look as though there's any fresh suckle marks there. So that may be some very sad news in that she could have potentially lost her cub. But very similar with the Nkoveni female, and actually most of the other females out here, often their first litter isn't successful because they're new mothers. They're not quite sure as to when to move their cubs, what are good dens, how's best to sort of move around and operate with the cubs. With the number of hyenas around here as well, they'll often follow leopards back to what at the time they don't know is a den, but then they'll find the cub. But I guess one positive to see is that this female is young, and so she has a lot of opportunities in the future in order to fall pregnant and essentially give birth to some future litters. And I'm sure with those future litters she will then be successful and hopefully raise some cubs to independence. So she came down off the mound and diverted her attention initially towards a herd of impala that were off to the side, and then a whole flock of some southern ground hornbills have come moving through the area. So she was watching those for a little bit. They've flown up into some of the dead trees nearby here, and I'm just watching her walk off down towards the river. So looks as though she's lost interest in both the hornbills and the impala. I think the impala are a bit too far away from her now, so she's probably just going to carry on, maybe settle down somewhere near the river, or find a good place for her to rest out for the most part of today. And if she does have a chance to hunt, I'm sure she'll take it. There are a lot of young impala lambs around, and it'll be prime for her to get a quick snack this morning. So we've just got to a sighting of a female cheetah after what was a pretty intense morning. The Nkoveni female and her 2 cubs bumped into this mother cheetah and her cub, and there was a big altercation where the 2 mothers went after each other. That caused the Nkoveni female's cubs to scamper out of there, and the cheetah cub has now run off in the other direction. Guys, I've seen it, it's quite far over that way, but it's contact calling and they're just trying to meet up. So we've parked at a bit of a distance now because I don't want to put too much pressure on this mother, and I want her to be able to then try and get across and find her cub. The Nkoveni female was somewhere in between the mother and the cub, so let's just see how it all unfolds. You can see the mother's head's up, she's looking around, trying to just see if there's any other danger around here. With cheetahs being so endangered, we don't want to put any extra pressure on her because she already has a lot of challenges in trying to raise this cub by herself. And so we'll stick with her because how awesome will it be if we can be there when the mother and cub reunite. And it's quite tricky because the more they try and find each other or call, giving off their contact call, that's also telling any other predator in the area that, hey, look, we're here. And so it's increasing the risk of just being in this area. So the mother cheetah is up now and walking in the direction of where we believe the cub to be. We're going to try to stay quite a distance away from her as to not put any extra pressure because it's quite a thick area where she needs to go through now. And you can see she's very nervous, constantly looking around. She knows the Nkoveni female somewhere close by here. And so guys have searched the area but can't find the Nkoveni female. So we don't know exactly where she is. So we're just going to hang back a little bit so we don't disrupt or disturb anything. So we weren't there for the actual reunion of the 2, but the mother's found the cub. As soon as we left her there, she must have just made a beeline running straight across here to find the cub. They're together, it's safe. And what they're going to do is probably get out of here as quickly as they can because they know the Nkoveni female's probably somewhere close by and she wants to keep this cub safe. So the mother's been very steady in moving the cub away from the area where the Nkoveni female was. By now they're pretty much at a safe distance away, but she still keeps looking back over her shoulder because as we're moving through there's a few rattling testiculars and other birds alarm calling at them, and so she doesn't want that to draw the attention of any other potential predators. But so she's still steady getting out of here. It is quite thick in and around this area, and cheetah don't like being confined or in a thick area. They like to be in the open grasslands where they can then see any danger as well as any prey. She is looking pretty hungry, so I'm sure once she then gets a safe enough distance away, she could then potentially start looking for some prey. So we last had a view of them walking into a pretty thick block, and we didn't want to put any extra pressure following them through there because we'd be crashing over trees trying to just stay with them. So we've looped around and we're waiting on the other side now, hoping that they pop out here. We've taken sort of the rough direct line that they were using, and we're just going to sit and wait here. But if they don't pop out in the next sort of 5 minutes or so, I reckon let's just leave the area. And it's just such great news that the mother cheetah's managed to reunite with her cub. And I mean, it's been a phenomenal sighting nonetheless. So great, and I'm glad they're together. Hopefully they can find a meal to feed on today. So on our way back this evening, we've just found the Senegal bushmail. He's walking straight down the road, but he stopped, lifted his head up. We've been looking off into what is an upwind direction. You can hear a whole lot of starlings and birds going berserk in there. And he's now walked off behind some of these bushes. So we're going to stick with him. There may be something else upwind of him that he's smelt and he wants to go and investigate. Actually cancel that. He's just turned around. He's coming walking straight back towards the road now. Been a fairly cool afternoon, and as a result of that he's up and he looks as though he's on a bit of a territorial patrol. He's scent marked a couple of times, he's called, and so because it's cooler it's easier for him to move around and essentially cover some more distance while it's light. He looks as though he's on part territorial patrol, but also the impalas have given birth to their lambs, and often what they'll do for the first few days, just allowing the lambs to find their feet, is they can stash them in some long grass or some thick bush just to help them grow and develop a little bit more. And so it's almost as though he's walking around looking to try and see if we can find any impala lambs hiding. So you just saw him scent marking right by the road here, and as we drive past we can smell what's almost like a buttery popcorn type of smell. As we were sitting there we could hear a few kudu alarm calling, basically saying that they've seen the Senegal bushmail and that he's lost that element of surprise, and so if he was to try and stalk in and attack, they're alert to him being around and they'll be able to get away, because if it's a foot race they just keep enough distance between them, they'll be able to get away before he's able to get close enough to grab hold of them. But he's walking off now towards a pretty difficult area for us to follow, and so it's been a very short, brief but entertaining sighting nonetheless. We're going to leave him and we'll start heading back towards camp.